Hello everyone, this is Scarzig, and welcome back to another Legends of Runeterra video. Today, we are playing Piltover Noxus Discard, and I'm really excited to jump right in. I'll have the deck code in the description as always, so you can take a look for yourself. Now, there's a lot of different ways to build this particular archetype. I was originally going down a very aggressive path with the deck, and it just really wasn't working out for me. A lot of really bad matchups in the meta, I felt, a lot of things I couldn't really deal with. So I tried to slow the deck down a little bit, put in more removal, relying more heavily on Jinx as a win condition, and that's been showing some promise. So let's jump right into the gameplay, and we'll see what it looks like from there. Freljord, Shadow Isles, no champions. So that means it might be a Mistwraith deck. Mistwraith usually runs Deny, though. Usually goes Ionia for Deny. This could just be Ledros. Interesting. Because Shadow Isles and Freljord both have a lot of late-game win conditions, they could be relying on just decent late-game, Rasa the Sunderer, etc. Now, with this deck, you can be a little bit greedier with your keeps, so I'm actually going to hold on to the Jinx. We are going first, so maybe we keep one Jury Rig just so that we can have a 1-drop to play. Rummage also pretty decent. Ooh, Draven's Biggest Fan is actually fantastic. This is going to guarantee that we have our Draven to play on curve. You'll notice too that we have the Amateur Aeronauts in the list. They provide just a little bit of chip damage. Because we're drawing the game out a bit more, these have a bit more room to function and get that slow buildup of damage. And again, because it is elusive, it can block other elusive units, which is very helpful. I think I mentioned this before, but I really feel like optimally you're supposed to just kill the Cursed Keeper as soon as possible before your opponent starts duplicating it, reviving it, etc. There's really not a lot I want to do here. I guess I could Rummage, because I'm going to be playing Draven on 3. Most likely I won't need the Amateur Aeronaut. I get a free 1-1 out of the deal. Doesn't seem very good, so I think I'll just pass. I'm thinking if I should block here. I think the answer is definitely yes. Again, this looks super weird. I know this is like horrifying to a lot of you right now, but I feel like that's definitely what you're supposed to do there. Optimally, if I did go for the Rummage, I could block with a 1-1 Jury Rig and save Draven's Biggest Fan. But because Draven's going to generate a Spinning Axe, etc., we'll have some extra fodder for the Rummage. Now that we're on turn 3, I can just play the Draven. If I want, I can use the Spinning Axe to pressure the Escaped Abomination. This deck has an easier time dealing with the 4-4, so I'm more comfortable killing the Cursed Keeper. Here comes the Undying, which can't block. So we're just going to swing in here. My opponent has no mana to affect this trade, looks like. At 1 mana, they could have Elixir of Iron, which would be really, really bizarre. But we're going to go for the attack here. So I can assign the attacker first and then do the discard after they've assigned the 4-4 to kill it. Or I just assign the axe now. My opponent would probably hold back the Escaped Abomination. So I think that... so they are just going to hold back the Abomination because they're threatened by the Spinning Axe. Okay, that's fine. So we miss 1 damage there, but we get a nice little Rummage off. In the earlier versions of this list, I wasn't quite sold on Rummage, even though I was such a big fan of it. The deck was playing a bit too quickly, right? If you empty your hand too much, then Rummage will become a dead card. You need things to discard. And now that the deck is playing a bit slower, relying more on Draven as well to be played on curve. You generate more Spinning Axes, you have more fodder for the Rummages. I really like it. So, opponent's going to be looking to attack here. I can set up Boom Crew Rookie. Whirling Death is actually really, really good here with the Spinning Axe. That's 3, 4, 5. Because Spinning Axe is 0. So I can do this. Do I block this one? Give my opponent another 4-4. No, because now that I have the Boom Crew rookie, I kind of want my opponent to have those cannot block type units. I think I'm just going to go for the Spinning Axe into Whirling Death here. And that's Burst, so that's going to resolve before the Whirling Death. And we'll just do this. Whirling Death is another card that I've really, really grown to love. It's not super useful, right? It basically allows you to temporarily double a unit's attack, so you can trade up into some of the bigger things that are going to be standing in your way. It doesn't interact with elusives very well. You need other units to bring those elusive units into combat, right? If your opponent's attacking with only elusives, then you can't block with the unit you want to cast Whirling Death on, because both targets need to be participating in combat. Yeah, so now we can pass. Draven has hit with 1 Spinning Axe, so that's pretty good. And also, for those of you who are curious, if you cast 2 Spinning Axe on Draven in 1 turn, it still counts as just 1 strike. It's 2 separate strikes with a Spinning Axe buff in order for Draven to level up. And leveled up Draven is like kind of Gets Overwhelm, which ain't bad. I should definitely just go straight into combat here, right? Because I get punished really hard by Chronicler of Ruin onto the Cursed Keeper. Which is, again, one of the reasons I feel like you should block this, but I wasn't sure if I'd be able to clear the first one. Yeah, let's not be greedy. We'll just get the free damage. We want to wear our opponent down. Glimpse. So I can Mystic Shot that to deny the card draw. It's going to die anyway. So at least taking some resources away from the opponent is fantastic here. Another Glimpse. You really want the cards, eh? No, they reconsidered. They're probably going to save the Glimpse for the Cursed Keeper then. They would have done it then, right? Oh yeah, see, there's Ravenous Butcher. Another reason you block the Cursed Keeper, so they don't get like that sort of value. It makes it harder for them to play the Ravenous Butcher. They would have just done Butcher on the Undying, however. We're almost there for getting Jinx available. I could do it now. Spinning Axe onto the Flame Chompers. I get to play Jinx next round. Since this deck plays a bit slower, I wonder if the crowd favorites end up finding their way back into this list. Probably not. Like, it doesn't go super wide. I just happen to have hit all of my low drops and my jury rigs and whatnot. And that's a very interesting direction I did take the list, where you try to go wide really, really quickly. I can't actually empty my hand. I have to block some stuff first. Let's block here. And block here. Actually, no. Because I'm setting up to, actually, no. I would be able to set up Super Mega Death Rocket for next round. So setting this down to 1 HP, I suppose, is fine. So we'll rock with this. Yeah, so this looks like just to be a revive value sort of deck. We play Trifarian Glory Seeker first, just in case my opponent is trying to set up like maybe Black Spear or something there. Avalanche. Okay. Nice. So Jinx gets to survive that avalanche. The Treferian Glory Seeker going down is actually not that big a deal. It's, if anything, it's just extra pressure. You can think of it as a 2-mana removal spell, but it also baits a lot of removal because it puts so much pressure on your opponent's minions. Into another glimpse. Okay. So here is where the deck really comes online. After you flipped Jinx, one of her additional abilities is that when you empty your hand, you get the Super Mega Death Rocket, right? The first time you empty your hand. But she also makes it so that you draw an extra card at the beginning of each round. So the trick will be to draw things like Get Excited. Yeah, so that lets you discard the second card that you got in order to get the Super Mega Death Rocket. I should just go into combat here first. And then get excited in combat so that it doesn't fully take my action like that. This can't block. And I don't want to cast Get Excited on any of those. My opponent's just going to Ghost Block with them anyway. They will die to Super Mega Death Rocket, but again, the important point is just to start getting this burn. You just chip away at your opponent, and then after Jinx flips, that's when things start to get really interesting. We will also be able to start top decking Augmented Experimenter, which was a card I was not sold on for a very long time and did not make it into the earlier versions of this deck, simply because it's sort of hard to get it to proc, right? It's bugged right now. At least I was told it was a bug. Vengeance. Okay. This is also good, too, while we simultaneously attacked and did the Get Excited to empty our hand. We still get to keep the Super Mega Death Rocket. And Vengeance is pretty expensive for the opponent. They're having a really hard time dealing with this Aeronaut. They're most likely hoping to get, like, Vile Feast or something of that nature. Opponent surrendered. Again, Super Mega Death Rocket deals 4 directly to the Nexus and then 1 damage to all the opponent's units. But I was going to say Augmented Experimenter, now that I am emptying my hand more consistently, I'm playing more towards the late game, it's not such a bad top deck. It's not such a bad draw every game that you get it. The hard aggro version actually can do quite well against elusives if your removal lines up correctly. Sometimes they do have really, really slow starts, really greedy starts where they're just bouncing the Mentor and not really establishing a lot. The issue is that you just die to Kinko Lifeblade. So this is Treferian Glory Seeker is definitely something we want to keep. Keeping both Jury Rigs is only good if we get like a Rummage or something, but we'll keep one to cast it turn 1. This is actually not that bad. I think definitely the trick in this matchup is going to just be survival, now that we're playing this more controlling. We have a lot of tools, though, in this list that deal with the opponent's list quite nicely. I have the Culling Strikes back in here. There is Arachnoid Sentries that really help us against Zed. Bonus about the Jury-Rig being a burst spell is that you can just immediately summon the 1/1 and go into combat before your opponent has a chance to establish anything on the board when you are going first like that. So, cheeky 1 damage, we'll take it. And there's the Rummage. Once I get Draven down, get some spinning axes, then we'll be ready to go. My opponent passed. Alright, so I have a really big decision to make here. If I play Treferian Glory Seeker, then I get to pressure whatever my opponent wants to develop next. But if I develop Boom Crew Rookie, I get to go immediately into combat. And get 4 damage. Since I already attacked, that could be a bait pass. And if my opponent develops something this turn anyway, then won't be a big deal. I think I want to save the Glory Seeker for when I have a really juicy target. Arguably, I could play the Glory Seeker now. Like if my opponent were to play Braum right here, that would be fantastic. Although Braum with like Elixir of Iron, because of the spell mana, they could be Braum plus Elixir of Iron, or Twin Disciplines, which wouldn't be a good play. So I'm just going to go in with the Draven. I think I'll just wait to establish the Glory Seeker after my opponent starts getting some elusives on board. This is fine. And we're just going to attack in. My opponent won't block with the Shadow Assassin. We'll hold the Spinning Axe just in case. We get to buff whichever one the Shadow Assassin decides to block. Interesting. Flash freeze. Okay. So you can still... what do I want to discard? Augmented Experimenter feels like the right choice here. Whirling Death is good removal. Actually, what if we just discard the Rummage? We're on 4 mana next turn. Yeah, let's get rid of the Rummage. And I'll just rebuff Draven. You can still buff units after they get frostbitten. So we'll still get a little bit of damage here. And it still counts for Draven's level up too, striking with the Spinning Axe. The important thing to note about Augmented Experimenter too is that because you discard your hand, it will help you insta-proc Jinx. So if I were to get like Jinx on curve or something, that'd be a really good keep. So I'm just going to make sure I have this to play on curve. The ability, because the discard, draw, and deal 3 is like all bundled into one ability, that can get denied. So we do have to be wary of that. My opponent's thinking about whether they want to just go right into combat here, I assume. Fortunately, they don't have a lot of pressure just yet. No Inspiring Mentor looks like. Really, really big whiff. I'll set up the Boom Crew. If I don't show the Glory Seeker just yet, my opponent might not be able to properly prepare for it. They get their free 3 damage. One thing about elusives that, again, is very interesting is the cadence they provide to the matchup, is that they get to attack and you can't block. But then when you attack, the elusive units can block. So if you want to go aggressive like this, you know, it becomes a really big issue. I'm wondering if I even challenge here. My opponent most likely will block the 5-1, so I should just force it. What's interesting too about having a challenger unit is that it will allow me to Whirling Death. But I like sacrificing the Glory Seeker here. Whirling Death actually makes more sense because I'm most likely going to play Experimenter next turn. So I should just empty my hand as much as possible. If my opponent has a combat trick here, however, then I can react to it with Whirling Death. Right now, we're setting our opponent down to 5, which is great. Augmented Experimenter, for those of you who don't know, used to be able to target the Nexus. But that is no longer the case. Because my opponent is sort of behind, there is a chance they're going to be spending mana. Ooh, there it is. There's Flash Freeze. Dang, so it makes my Whirling Death not as good. However, I can do this. I can Whirling Death on the Glory Seeker so that it just kills the Navori Conspirator immediately. And I can also just do this to discard 1 Augmented Experimenter to give the Spinning Axe to Draven like we had planned before. And that will trigger Draven's level up. A second attack with the Spinning Axe. So Glory Seeker actually gets to double dip a bit. By pulling the elusive units into combat, it makes them susceptible to Whirling Death. So no deny on the Spinning Axe because it's burst, but they could deny the Whirling Death, which isn't even that bad for us here, because we are ahead on board, and denying the Whirling Death, all it means is that I don't get to double dip on the Glory Seeker. We can see the Shadow Assassin still in my opponent's hand. That was bounced. If they deny, then they can't develop this turn. Will of Ionia gives me my Glory Seeker back. Okay. And I have the 2 mana still available to just replay the Glory Seeker. Cool. So my opponent gets first action depending on how much mana they spend. I'll probably go right into the Augmented Experimenter. Theoretically, developing the Aeronaut is better, right? Well, no. If my opponent has elusives, they block the Aeronaut, so it doesn't make sense to develop it. Or maybe developing it is correct. This is a tough one. This is actually very interesting. Another decision. This is one of the things that drew me towards playing this archetype, is that extra layer of decision making. Do I develop this? Do I discard this? Is really really neat. So they've got Ash. Oh yeah, that means Augmented Experimenter, because they play all their mana. They can't deny this. They can buff Ash, like maybe with Elixir of Iron or something of that nature, some HP buff. Nope. So we deal the 3 HP to Ash. Discard our hand, and we draw 3 cards. Full board, full reload. We've got fantastic Whirling Death. The amount of cycling that this deck can do means that you usually have access to a good portion of your removal. Now that we are going directly into combat next turn, I'm trying to think of what my opponent has to survive this. Potentially Harsh Winds? Actually, hang on a second. Let's cancel that. We want to... Wait, no, we want to put the Glory Seeker last in line to play around Spirit's Refuge, which is a spell that grants a unit barrier and lifesteal, and if all of our damage goes through before the if all the damage goes through before the lifesteal were to happen, then we can just end the game. And don't forget, the Boom Crew rookies deal free damage to the Nexus. These have just been sitting there, dealing that long burn damage to the opponent. Buffing this card, it used to have 0 base attack, and buffing it to 1 base attack just makes it such a good card. Thank you for tuning in today. Let me know in the comments below how you've been building your Jinx Draven deck, if it is more aggressive or maybe a bit slower like this one. Again, the deck code that I'm using will be in the description, and you can see me play this deck live on Twitch every Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Until then, I'll see you next time. Have a good one.